Is it me, or did midwinter feel especially bleak this year? I mean, we expected to some degree, right? The longest night, the shortest day, naked trees lamenting the loss of their foliage. This is the season of mild depression for many and deep despair for some, and I was wondering where on that continuum I might land as I trudged across the grayish remains of what was once a verdant pasture. Below the defeated grass was a sticky mud, not even covered up by a cheerful layer of snow or sparkling frost, just mud. And the cloud cover added a grayness to the air itself, as uninspiring a day as you could imagine. Still, the dogs needed their walk, so we plodded on, one tired foot in front of the other. After cresting the first slope of the mountain, stopping to catch our breath, I looked at the land from that vantage point, an expanse of muddy fields, dreary. But then I looked up, and to my surprise, the sky right above me was just as bright blue as could be, lit by heavenly sunshine, a small patch of promise, but that was all I needed. And to think it had been there all along, I just hadn't noticed it when I was looking down the whole time. Nothing had changed. It was still midwinter, muddy and bleak, but I had received the gift of hope. Something brighter exists and will come. There is wisdom in looking up now and then. This is the time of year when Christians remember Epiphany, the time when the Magi, the wise ones from Persia, looked up and saw a bright star that would lead them to discover the Christ child in Bethlehem, a small town in far-away Judea. That star gave them hope in a dreary time. They too lived under Roman occupation and longed for a time when their people would be released from the tyranny of empire. And there in the night sky, a star of wonder, star of light, star of royal beauty bright, led them westward to find the new King of the Jews. Hope shone brightly in that star. I mean, not for them, not at that moment, not in their land. What did a baby born in Judea have to do with anyone in Persia? Not much, but the Persians and the Judean story was similar, and so was their pain. 330 years prior, Alexander the Great had defeated Persia, and people had lived under Roman rule ever since. Historian Kelly Nikondeha writes, like many in the ancient Near East, Persians believed that kings were connected to divinity. To claim a foreign king was to dethrone not merely their own political leader, but their god. Many people held a deep desire to return to rulers who would respect their Persian kin and ways and their god. And a rising star in the sky gave the Magi reason to believe regime change was possible. Perhaps in the sign of an indigenous king to be restored to the Judean throne, they recognized a hope not unlike their own for a restored Persian ruler. The Magi discerned the possibility of hope. That star above Bethlehem illuminated the dark intersection of people's hopes and fears, even 1,000 miles away, because if such a thing could happen in Judea, then it could happen in Persia too. Of course, not everyone saw the star. King Herod apparently missed it, despite the great view he had of the entire land from the vantage point of his Herodium just outside of Bethlehem, the fortress he had built for the purpose of surveillance. He missed that star. Poor old Herod was so busy looking down at the people he feared might threaten his power, plotting and executing violent plans against them, he never thought to look up for a sign from the heavens above. Many people didn't. Under Herod's constant watch and fearful of his notoriously violent behavior, it was safer to keep your head down, watch your step, toe the line, don't step on a crack. But that star revealed God's love breaking through, cracking the facade of hopeless, never-ending tyranny, if you could look up to see it. For those who noticed, things were looking up. Maybe not immediately, not for those Persian Magi anyway. That baby had a lot of growing up to do, if he could first manage to avoid Herod's murderous wrath and get grown. And even then, he would be king of the Jews, not king of Persia, but still, a star over Bethlehem could one day be a star over Persia. Empires rise, but they also fall, always. So having seen the star, what did the wise ones do? They went to see, to learn, to ask, to wonder, to experience. What would a new kind of king, a new kind of kingdom look like? They came with open minds, but not empty hands, right? They brought gifts of great value, which would help Jesus' family leave the country to save his life. For those wise ones had made one critical mistake along the way, asking King Herod for directions, alerting him to the presence of a new king of the Jews. They did not make that mistake twice. They went back using different roads to avoid getting mixed up with him again. But again, they didn't go home empty-handed. They returned with a priceless gift for their people, hope, carefully wrapped in the story they would tell of the way hope shone brightly in the Star of Bethlehem and in the eyes of a child who would grow up entirely without privilege to become the kind of king his people, all people, were longing for. Tragically, many hopes and dreams would be shattered before they were realized. According to the second chapter of Matthew's Gospel, King Herod, alerted by the Magi to the presence of a newborn king of the Jews, would order the murder of every boy child under the age of 2 in Bethlehem and surrounding towns. If that star had still been shining, it would have illuminated streets slick with blood, and the tear-streaked faces of grieving mothers, grandmothers, and any children left to bury the bodies of the dead, the little boys and anyone who died trying to protect them. Because that star of wonder was a marvelous sign, but not a magic spell. Jesus' birth wouldn't instantly bring healing to the broken world. Things would get worse before they got better. And yet we still remember that star of wonder, star of light, star of royal beauty bright, a divine portent of not only a new king, but a new definition of power. The power of love, the power of compassion, the power of God with us, leading us to a new way of living, of being, of thinking. It would be a long journey, longer than the journey from Persia to Bethlehem and back, longer than the star child's lifespan, longer than anyone could know. For we're still on that journey, aren't we? And like the wise ones, we have two choices. We can look down, noticing how bad things are, same old problems, nothing ever seems to change, or we could look up and find that star. Where is that star, the one that brings us hope? We must look for it, but seeing it is just the beginning. This author, Kelly Mikondeha, writes, as the Magi don't just see the star from the east and marvel at it, we learn from them to act in hope and follow the star that guides us. What is the star that guides you? What inspires you? What gives you hope? Where do you see a glimmer of something better? Seek out the stories, lessons, the heroes. Be inspired by the people doing beautiful work to make life better for others. Connect with people doing that kind of work. Join in. And if nothing inspiring is happening right where you are, then look further. If a star shining over Bethlehem could give hope to wise ones in Persia, maybe we too can be guided by signs from afar. I was recently inspired by the story of Nafez Asaili, a Palestinian who grew up under occupation in Jerusalem. Violence and hostility toward his people shaped his childhood, but instead of becoming violent himself, he got educated, and his educational journey led him to discover the nonviolent philosophy of Gandhi. He wondered if that approach could be fruitful in his homeland, and he committed his life to advocating for nonviolence. And he realized nonviolence must begin at home, so he worked with families and children, teaching nonviolent communication, offering healthy coping mechanisms for frustration, starting at home and in the workplace. Slow work. It takes generations to enact that kind of cultural shift, but that's not a reason to give up. In fact, all the more reason to persist. I found this story interesting, but what hit home for me was to learn that this leader's greatest tool is books. In 1996, he started Library on Wheels for Nonviolence and Peace, traveling from village to village, by car when possible, by donkey when necessary, bringing children books featuring stories of nonviolence. And some of the children who first read these books are now young adults working toward nonviolent actions in their own communities. So it's working. Isn't that inspiring? And so attainable. Books. Simply books. I know kids, you know kids, kids need gifts. Why not give them books with lessons on nonviolence? They're not hard to find. There's a growing genre of books promoting positive character development and nonviolent behaviors. If you know a teacher, consider giving them books like this for their classroom. You could even volunteer to read to the kids. Many schools welcome helpers. Or maybe talk to your local library if you've got one. Do they have a reading program where you could volunteer? What about an intergenerational book club? Oh my, there are so many ways we can engage this idea wherever we are. Imagine promoting peace through books. Sounds like a dream to me. And if nothing else, just spend time with children and learn to see life through their eyes. Children are always looking up. Have you noticed? We tend to look down at our news feeds and groan, but kids, their hopes and dreams are lofty, star-like. Ask a child, what do you hope for? Listen and look. Do you see it shining up ahead, far away perhaps, but bright and insistent? Set your sights on that star and follow it where it leads. This is what we will do if we are wise. And it all starts when we look up. That was my epiphany in the season of Epiphany, and I hope that you will find yours also. If you're interested in knowing more about the story that I just shared and some of the other ideas I've been talking about for the last season of Advent, I would recommend this book called The First Advent in Palestine by Kelly Mikundeha, available at a bookstore near you. Blessings to you all.